Hello, welcome to Realign. My name is Deanna, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Here we do everything from Pilates, yoga, sound healing, nutritious recipes, everything that is going to help you feel good in your body. Today I want to share with you how to engage your core, because this is probably one of the biggest questions that I get on Instagram and comments, things like that, is how do I engage my core? How do I make sure that it doesn't go into my hip flexors? How come my back is hurting during exercises? So I want to help you and teach you exactly how to engage your core properly for the best workout possible and to feel your best. So I want to first explain that this is how you're going to engage your core all the time, not just when you're doing your ab exercises, but when you're engaging your core like this, you can do it when you're doing leg exercises, arm exercises, or anything in between. And I'm going to teach you how to do this and practice this throughout your day so that it can become second nature during your workouts. Let's get started. Okay, so first, what is your core? Because I've actually had that conversation with people before, like, what is my core? And your core is everything, kind of think about your torso. It's everything from the neck down to your pelvis. So I like to think of it kind of like a box, and you have four sides to your box plus a top and a bottom, right? So there's different muscles within our core that make up our core. It's not just our six-pack ab muscles. So where does it begin? So we have, first of all, I'm going to start with our six-pack muscles because everybody knows those. We have our rectus abdominis, which run up and down. It's those six-pack muscles. And believe it or not, they're not the most important. Don't worry about those muscles too much, because if you do this core engagement, you're going to be working those, you're going to be strengthening them no matter what. But your rectus abdominis is important for flexion, bending forward, and that's really all that it does. And then you have your obliques, which are your side abs. So your rectus abdominal muscles are the outermost layer of your abdominal muscles. Below that is your obliques. You have internal and external. I don't expect you to remember all of this, but your obliques are responsible for twisting through your spine and side bending. So those run kind of diagonally, your internal and your external. Again, I don't need you to remember all of that. Then in deeper still is your transverse abdominis. And this is what we're gonna learn how to engage today. So your transverse actually starts from your spine and it wraps all the way around to the front. So the muscle fibers actually go horizontally with this, and this creates an internal corset for your entire torso. So this is the most important muscle in the core, one of them. But this is what we are going to be focusing on finding today. And you've probably heard about it, your transverse abdominis. This is what you feel in your planks, and this is what is going to help really stabilize your torso. Now, we also have a top part of our box and a bottom part of our box. Our top part is our diaphragm, which is our breathing muscle. And you are going to figure out kind of how to breathe today, as well as maintaining that core engagement, and that involves your diaphragm. Then, the bottom of our box is called our pelvic floor. And again, you may have heard this, it's been floating around a lot more in the fitness industry, but your pelvic floor is kind of the bottom of your box, and it holds all of your intestines together. Men and women both have pelvic floors. So regardless of your gender, you have a pelvic floor. Now, it's really hard to find your pelvic floor because, again, it is kind of a newer idea in the fitness industry. So sometimes you'll hear pelvic floor, but you have no idea what it is, right? So I'm going to teach you how to find that today as well. So we're going to find all of those muscles in this quick little tutorial. So let's get started. All right, we're going to start laying on our backs, but I also want you to realize that this core engagement, will be able to be used in all positions, and I want you to try and practice it in all those positions as well. So we're gonna do it laying down on our backs, but again, you can do this laying on your stomach, you can do this laying on your sides, you can do this standing, you can do this sitting. Every single position that your body can be in, you can engage your core with this exercise. So from here, first of all, we have to make sure that our pelvis and our spine are in correct alignment before we begin. Otherwise, nothing's gonna matter. So what I want you to do here is just lay down on your mat and kind of see how everything feels. Knees are bent, feet flat on the floor, and your hips are flat down on the floor. Now, I want you to first take a second to find what I call a neutral spine. So you may have seen a lot where you're like flattening and pressing your low back down into the mat. And that's great and everything, but we want to make sure that our spine is actually in neutral, which is this S curve that naturally happens with our spine. And we want to work on strengthening that position rather than this kind of tucked flat back position down to the floor. And I'll explain a little bit because this flat back position is okay and it can keep you safe in certain situations, and I'll explain all that. But first, let's find what neutral spine is. So find the bony part of your hips here, and then you're gonna find your pubic bone. So again, this is gonna be touchy-feely. We're gonna get nice and close here, but this is touchy-feely, and I want you to press the base of your palm on the bony part of your hips, and you're gonna make a little diamond shape with your fingers, so index fingers and thumbs. So the base of your palms goes on the bony parts of your hips, your thumb is gonna go kind of towards your belly button, and your fingertips are towards your pubic bone. So you're making this little diamond shape within your pelvis. Now, from here, you have right now a little tiny space between your low back and the mat. You should be able to stick 1 or 2 fingers underneath there, maybe a stick of gum. Everybody has a different S curve through their spine, so it's gonna be different for you than it is for me. But you have this diamond shape with your hands. Now, we're gonna do little tiny pelvic tilts to find our neutral position, our perfect neutral position. So first, I want you to flatten your low back to the mat. Now, when you flatten it, you'll notice your little triangle here, your fingertips are gonna be higher than your thumb, right? So you're tilting your pelvis. Now, I want you to go the opposite way and kind of arch your back, and now your thumbs should be higher than your index fingers. And just kind of rock back and forth here for a second, feeling this. And each direction probably is not the most comfortable, and especially if you exaggerate it. And this is just, again, finding those little pelvic tilts back and forth. Now, I want you to find a position that's neutral. What that means is your index fingers and your thumbs are parallel to the floor. This little diamond shape is parallel to the floor. Now, that is our neutral spine position. Again, you should be able to stick 1 or 2 fingers under your low back, and it's not huge. You shouldn't be able to put your whole arm under there, and you shouldn't be totally flattened down. Now, in our neutral position, I'm gonna show you or tell you, explain to you, what I call pelvic clocking. This is a Pilates term, and I want you to first imagine that your belly button is the center of a clock. So you might need to close your eyes. Again, please get touchy-feely with me here. I promise touchy-feely helps a lot. So your belly button is the center of a clock. 2 inches above your belly button is 12 o'clock. 2 inches below your belly button is 6 o'clock. And you have your 3 and your 9 o'clock on the sides, right? So what I want you to do is, without moving anything within your body, I want you to see if you can engage just your upper abdominal muscles here, just that 12 o'clock position. What this means here is you're gonna try and flatten your rib cage together, like you're knitting your ribs together and pulling it in. Now, the easiest way I can explain this is, you know, when you're laughing really, really hard and you get to that point where like your abs hurt, that is what I want you to feel here. So you're pulling those rib cages in. Now, if this is done correctly, you can poke around about 2 inches above your belly button and you should feel a tightness. If it's not, you're just it might be a little jello-y, but if you're knitting those rib cages together, it should feel kind of tight up there. Again, these are the easier ones to find. Now, we're gonna find our lower abdominal muscles, right? Okay, so these are all part of our transverse. So this one is a little bit harder, and this goes into your pelvic floor a little bit more. What I want you to do here is find those bony parts of your hips. You're gonna try and draw the bony parts of your hips towards each other and engage your lower abdominal muscles. Now, another way that you can think about this, or that's helpful, is finding your pelvic floor muscles a little bit more first. And to find that, I want you to imagine that you are going to the bathroom, you're peeing, right? And I want you to stop peeing. So those are your pelvic floor muscles working. When you're trying to stop the flow of urination, that's your pelvic floor muscle. So I want you, again, without moving bones or anything in your body, close your eyes if you need to, find that 6 o'clock position of your clock, and I want you to see if you can engage your lower abdominal muscles and pull those down and in. So you're trying to pull your your hips together and drawing your pelvic floor in and up, right? And again, I want you to poke around here and see if that is all tight. Now, if it's not, again, it'll feel a little bit jello-y, and we've all got flesh and skin and things, so it's going to be jello-y no matter what size you are, but you're pulling those muscles in and tightening. So now you have your 12 o'clock and your 6 o'clock. Now we're going to go into our obliques, which is a little bit more challenging, but I know you can do this. For your obliques, again, this is all your rectus, but work with me here on finding your obliques, right? You're going to think about pulling your right rib and your right hip together and squeezing that in and pulling your waistline in, as if I was like pulling a string or one of those tape measures around your waistline, and you're going to find just your right side. Now, poke around over there, see if it's tight. This is the hardest to find, the right and the left, because we usually don't ever isolate like this. So you're finding those muscles and releasing. And with all of this, you should still be able to breathe. Now come over to your left side, and now left rib, left hip are drawing towards each other, and you're pulling in on that waistline. Again, poke around, make sure everything's tight, get touchy-feely with yourself, it's just you. Now, we did each thing individually, right? We did upper, lower, side to side. Now we want to try and engage all of it together and still be able to breathe. This means that we need to breathe into our rib cage and expand our ribs out to the side. This is like think of it like an alligator breath, like you're expanding out to the side. This is diaphragmatic breathing. So take a second, let everything relax. Relax your body and then find that neutral spine position. Now from here, I want you to take an inhale, exhale, find your upper abs, pull those in tight. Take a small sip of air, keeping those muscles tight, and then see if you can find your lower abdominal muscles and pull those in. Good. Now, another sip of air, and at the same time, see if you can pull your waistline in and pull everything in. So now you should feel this whole core super, super tight. You're pulling your pelvic floor in and up like you're trying to stop the flow of urine. You're drawing your waistline in, your ribs are knit together, pulling everything in, and you should still be able to have 1 or 2 fingers underneath your low back, and you should still be able to breathe. Whew. Now release everything. Now, that is how you engage your core. I want you to practice this laying on your side, laying on your stomach, standing up, sitting down, and let's do one quick ab curl here just to make sure we've got it. And I'll help you run through a few more exercises and give you some tips on how to practice this throughout the day. So from here, we're going to find a tabletop position with our legs. You're going to bring your right leg to tabletop, so knee right over the hip, shins parallel to the floor. Engage your core nice and tight before you draw that other one up. Now, from here, you're going to bring your hands behind your head. See if you can make sure you have that engagement through your core. You have that tiny little space. Now, elbows stay wide. You're going to lift into your ab curl and draw your abs in. So if you're pooching your belly up, not right. You're pulling in deeper with those abs, and then lowering it back down. And in your ab curl, you should still be able to have the tiniest little space. If you're flattening your low back here, you're getting into that imprinted position, not that neutral spine position. Lower it down and then lift it right back up. And if you're doing this correctly, you're probably shaking like crazy. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm shaking like crazy each and every rep here. That is a good thing. Exhale, you lift and down and relax here. Whew. How you feeling? Did you get it? Okay. So quickly, I mentioned that imprinted spine where you're flattening your low back. Now, again, this is okay, especially in Pilates. Imprinted spine was something that was done all the time. Back when Pilates was invented over 100 years ago, they thought the spine was supposed to be flat, so they flattened the spine all the time. This is a safe position. It's totally safe. It's just not going to strengthen your core in that S curve. And we want that S curve to maintain a healthy spine. So if you're imprinting, that's okay. If that helps you get a little deeper into your core, once you build up strength, I would recommend going into the S curve when you can, when it's possible. But if you're starting to feel straining in your low back, if you notice you're overarching your low back, then find that imprinted position. It is okay, but keep neutral when possible. Next, I want you to also imagine each and every time you exhale that you're drawing in deeper into that corset sort of feeling and drawing in and up through your pelvic floor, like you're zipping up. So those are some tips for that. And now, again, I want you to try doing this as much as possible in different positions. So when you're kneeling, when you're seated, you want to try and feel those positions. The hardest one is actually when you're laying on your belly. And if you need a tutorial on that, I'm happy to share one with you. Just let me know in the comments. And what I want you to do to make this a habit to help you during your workouts is to practice this engagement as much as you possibly can. So I usually tell my clients, practice when you're in the grocery store, when you're waiting in line to check out, practice when you're in your car at a stop sign, stoplight. Practice it as much as you can, and nobody will know that you're engaging your core and working your abs as you're doing it. You can do it all day, practice it as much as possible. Think of your posture, standing nice and tall, pulling your core in tight, finding that corset. Now, please let me know if this was helpful for you. I would really like to know. If you need more tutorials on how to engage different muscle groups, I would love to help you. And please subscribe to my channel if you are not already. Thank you and have a fantastic day.